The September 13th, 2011 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
President Adair.
Here.
Miss Andrews. Mr. Antelli. Mr. Barker. Mr. Baroth. Mr. Beebe. Mr. Cassetti. Mr. Colby. Mr. Daniele. Mrs. Draw. Mr. Eckel. Mr. Esposito. Mr. Gamble. Mr. Gamina. Mr. Haney. Mr. Hanna. Mr. Hyder. Mr. Holland. Miss Kaylee. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lightfoot. Mr. Monero is excused. Mr. McCann. Mr. O'Brien. Dr. Quattro. Mr. Rocco. Mr. Tucciarello. Mrs. Valerio. Mr. Yolovich.
Please stay seated. I would like to introduce Pastor Nancy Peebles of the First Congregational Church in Spencerport, who's been invited tonight by Legislator Robert Colby.
Let us pray. God of all creation, in this week when we have been reminded once again of the grief that our nation has shared, be with us and give us peace. As legislators and politicians work together during this period of time, give them wisdom, a little bit of laughter. Help them indeed to remember they serve people, that these are not just names. We give you thanks, our God, for all your care for us. And we pray this tonight together in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Peebles, on behalf of the whole county legislature, I want to say thank you. Good job. Thank you. Take care. Legislators and audience, before we begin our meeting tonight, I would like to ask for a moment of silence for those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001, as well as the brave men and women of our military who continue to fight and protect our country each day. Thank you. Also, as you know, over the past couple of weeks, there's been major flooding in the state of New York, and I'm proud tonight that I want to recognize that we had 55 volunteer fire people from our county, along with 13 volunteer EMS that went to those areas of devastation and disaster within our community, the state. And I would just like to thank them for the remarkable, incredible service they did in representing Monroe County, too. So, thank you. Legislator Mike Rocco, will you lead us now in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You've received your copy of the Journal of Day 9, August 9th, 2011. Without exception, the journal stands as approved as submitted. There's a hearing loop in place tonight to assist those of hearing impaired. Anyone requiring assistance should inquire at our clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, pager, or other electronic device in your possession, we request that you silence them for the duration of the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation.
Legislators, the referrals to the legislature for the next committee cycle are all in your folders now. And at this time, it is my great honor to introduce to us tonight Mark Quinn of the Monroe County Parks Department. Our Mr. Green Thumb is going to present tonight the plan of the month. Mark?
Our plant of the month this month is hydrangea. It's actually a relatively large group of plants. There's 23 different species and hundreds of varieties. We have 2 different species up here and several varieties here. They grow in a number of conditions and a number of forms. Some of the biggest ones are almost tree form, and the smallest ones are low shrubs like we have up front here. Generally speaking, they're relatively easy to grow. They like to have partial shade, well-drained soil, and generally they need to be watered in the summer so that they don't dry out too much, particularly when you install them. The interesting thing about a lot of hydrangeas is the color. If you look at the ones in the center, we have blues and pinks there, and that color is actually changeable, which is very unusual in a flower. You can change it by the acid level of the soil. It actually has to do with how much aluminum's in the flower. If there's a lot of aluminum, they're blue, and that happens in acid soil. And generally, if the soil's alkaline, they're going to be pink, and you can adjust that in your yard for macrophylla, which is the center ones. The ones on the side, they won't do that. They don't care what color or what the pH of the soil is. They're going to be this color no matter what. So generally, if you have a white one, you can't change the color. But a purple or pinkish color or blue can be changed by altering the soil a little bit. They're a little bit on the difficult side to prune. You have to know what you've got. What you really want to do is not prune these late in the summer, or you'll prune off most of next year's blooms. So if you've got your hydrangeas, right now it's a little too late to prune them. Most of them. That's not true with some of the white varieties. You can prune almost any time, but certainly the blues and the pinks, you don't want to do that. In the county, we have a tremendous collection of hydrangeas in Highland Park, and as you drive throughout the county right now, you'll see a lot of beautiful hydrangeas in bloom. It's one of the more prominent flowering shrubs you'll see right now. Any questions? Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I hope you all learned something tonight. Okay. This evening we have several proclamations scheduled. Madam Clerk.
Would Patricia Brantingham, Executive Director of the Perinatal Network of Monroe County, please come forward? Also, County Executive Maggie Brooks and President Jeffrey R. Adair. Hi. Infant mortality refers to any death of a baby prior to their first birthday. It is a tragic event for all families who must suffer through the pain and anguish of losing a child. Within the United States, the infant mortality rate ranks 29th among industrialized nations. In Monroe County, infant mortality claimed the lives of 57 babies in 2010. Premature birth, low birth weight, and shorter intergestation periods account for more than 60% of infant deaths in the U.S. Infant mortality is also often the result of multiple generations of poor health, exposure to environmental hazards, chronic stress, and inadequate health behavior. Prevention of infant mortality requires individual behavioral changes as well as the creation of healthier physical and social environments, which promote healthier habits throughout the life cycle. The rate of infant mortality can also be reduced through community-based services such as outreach, home visitation, case management, health education, and prenatal care. Monroe County is proud to recognize the tireless efforts in our community to raise public awareness and educate individuals on the many opportunities for services, programs, and education available to help prevent infant mortality. Therefore, we, Maggie Brooks, Monroe County Executive, and Jeffrey R. Adair, President of the Monroe County Legislature, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2011 to be Infant Mortality Awareness Month in Monroe County, and we commend the efforts made during the month of September to heighten awareness and educate our community. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to increase awareness of this issue in our county. Every year, the Perinatal Network gets to September and says, what do we do this year to bring this issue to the attention of the public? And why do we want to do that? And we want to do that. We want to bring this issue to your attention, not just to make you sad, although we think it will make you sad, and not just to make you grieve, although I hope that you will grieve for these babies that we have lost, but to recognize that, in fact, it is possible to prevent many, many, many of these deaths. And so how do we make that real for people? Well, this year, I want to share with you just a little sample of what we have done. We've created clotheslines with onesies. Your parents, you know what a onesie is. That's what you put on your little 6-month or year-old baby. And we've created a large display of these clotheslines with 57 onesies, one for each of those babies who died before his or her first birthday in 2010. That's almost 90 feet of clothesline, each one of those representing a life that was lost. And a recognition, as our information cards will tell you, that a healthy baby is possible. A healthy baby begins with you. And by you, we don't just mean mom, although certainly mom matters. By you, we mean schools, and we mean doctors, and we mean families, and we mean neighborhoods. We mean bodies like this that make policies that allow people to make healthy choices, and neighborhoods where it's as easy to make a positive, healthful choice as it is to make a poor choice. So you may see our clotheslines around. If you were at the Clothesline Art, aptly named, Art Festival over the weekend, you may have seen us, or at the public market or farmers markets around the city, at Unity Health System, Jordan Health System. You'll see them lots of places this month. And if you see them, you'll see some that are decorated that have been customized, perhaps by a family, perhaps by a worker who's worked with a family that's lost a baby. Give a little thought as you go by to what we can do and what you can do, because a healthy baby truly does begin with you. Thank you so much.
Would Andy Stewart of the Ride of Silence please come forward? Also President Adair and legislators Debbie Draw, Mike Rocco, and Dan Quattro. Whereas the Ride of Silence is held to honor bicyclists who have been killed or injured by motorists, promote sharing the road, and to provide awareness of bike safety. Each year, the ride is held on the third Wednesday of May at 7 p.m. This year's event was hosted by the town of Penfield. 34 local cyclists gathered together and rode for an hour in silent contemplation. And whereas Andy Stewart is the founder of Monroe County's Ride of Silence, when Andy's wife was struck and killed by an inattentive driver in 2007, he knew he had to bring the Ride of Silence to Monroe County. As an employee in a local bike shop, as well as a former shop owner, Andy has participated in bicycling for many years. He is a current member of the Rochester Bike Club and has been since 1976. He was a Hall of Fame inductee in 1983 and is currently a board member at large. Andy organized the first Ride of Silence in 2010, and whereas he has been a strong advocate for biking safety and awareness. Since 2003, the Ride of Silence has gathered more support with an impressive 10,700 riders participating this year. Monroe County is proud to be the home of such a dedicated and passionate volunteer. Now therefore we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, Debbie Draw, Legislator District 9, Mike Rocco, Legislator District 2, and Dan Quattro, Legislator District 15, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate Andrew Stewart for his leadership in founding the Right of Silence in Monroe County. Congratulations.
Thank you all for coming tonight and for recognizing the right of silence and what it means. I have a few simple thanks. Thank you for the proclamation. It starts with my Quaker mother, who taught me the worthiness of silent introspection, and that's the key of the right of silence. Thank you also to the Rochester Bicycling Club for their support and their presence in my life and in the community. And I will just put a side note that we're beginning to see bike lanes throughout the city being painted and set up currently, and this is a good step towards rider safety and sharing the road. Thank you for the town of Penfield, who was gracious to host the Ride of Silence, and the Recreational Department's Chris Bilo. He was instrumental in planning the venue in particular. Debbie Draw stepped up at the last moment and put a public voice to the sentiment of this event. Hers was the last voice heard until we returned to the venue an hour later after our ride. And lastly, a thanks to my current and future partner, Christina, who understood what the Ride of Silence meant to me and allowed me to honor my late wife. Thank you all.
Would Ann Howard, Board President of Cornell Cooperative Extension, please come forward? Also, President Adair and legislators E. Daniel Quattro and Robert J. Colby. Whereas Cornell Cooperative Extension of Monroe County gives residents the opportunity to evolve and expand their knowledge and experiences within their lives and communities, CCE utilizes the partnership between federal, state, and local governments, as well as Cornell University, students, volunteers, and staff to develop programs that put experience and knowledge to work. And whereas the 4-H Youth Development Program has served 456 youth through long-term intensive club participation and more than 560 youth through community projects and school partnerships in Monroe County this year. The Youth Development Program invests in the future of our younger generation by creating opportunities for youth to develop personal leadership skills, contribute to their communities, and strengthen their science and technology abilities. And whereas Monroe County is proud to support Cornell Cooperative Extension as they continue to provide high quality and innovative programs. These experiences offered to our youth are a unique chance for education and real life experience. The 4-H Youth Development Program is no exception, as they prepare our young residents to step up to the challenges in our community and world. Now therefore we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, E. Daniel Quattro, Majority Leader, and Robert J. Colby, Legislator District 20, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate the 2001 Cornell Cooperative Extension National 4-H Week in Monroe County and encourage all residents to take advantage of 4-H programs in our community. Congratulations.
Good evening. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Monroe County Cooperative Extension Association, I want to express our gratitude for the continuing support for 4-H programs from the County Legislature. I also want to introduce our 4-H staff, Keith Alexander, Margot Beyer, and Amy Widger, without whom this program could not do all that it does. But you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from two-star 4-H participants, Savannah and Sydney DeVore from Pittsford.
Hello, my name is Savannah DeVore, and I'm 8 years old. I have been in 4-H for 3 years, and I like 4-H because we got to go bug catching, make lap blankets for retirement residents, and go to Wild Wings Bird Refuge. Next year, I want to enter something in the Monroe County Fair. I haven't chosen what it is yet, but I'll figure out soon. Hi, my name is Sydney DeVore and I am 11 years old. I have been in 4-H for 3 years. Lately, I have become extremely passionate about knitting. 4-H gave me an opportunity to express that with public presentations, which I have done for 2 years, and the county and state fairs. I look forward to doing new projects and making new discoveries in the upcoming years.
I think that's your replacement.
That's your replacement.
Anthony, that was your replacement.
Would representatives from the Greentopia Festival please come forward? Also, President Adair and Legislator Travis Hyder. Whereas this weekend, the historic High Falls District in downtown Rochester will be transformed into a 2-day indoor-outdoor celebration of sustainable living, environmental education, and entertainment. The inaugural Greentopia Festival, co-founded by Michael Phillipson and Louis Stess, is a free event that is the first festival of its kind in the Northeast. Whereas the Greentopia Festival is being put on by the Friends of the Garden Aerial, a nonprofit group that is hoping to transform the Pont de Rennes pedestrian bridge into a bridge of flowers and vertical park above the Genesee River Gorge. And whereas the interactive festival will feature big and small green ideas, art installations, family activities, organic and local food and beverages, how-to workshops, cutting-edge films, and live music. The festival also aims to promote green living for people's homes, businesses, transportation, and their lives. And whereas everything that can be recycled at the festival will be recycled, right down to the disposable utensils. With a lineup of famous writers, speakers, activists, and sponsors, including Monroe County, the City of Rochester, MCC, FoodLink, and over 60 others, festival organizers hope to celebrate the green movement, promote green living, and save consumers and businesses money in a more sustainable future Rochester community, and create an annual event celebrated for years to come. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Travis R. Hyder, Legislator District 14, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature on this day, September 13th, 2011, do hereby honor the Greentopia Festival for their dedication to educating the community about sustainable practices on the eve of their first annual event. Congratulations.
All right, I was elected to speak. So, well, we'd like to first of all thank the county and Maggie Brooks for your great support of the Greentopia Festival. You'll actually be supporting a film festival there that will show some green films and so forth. We are really excited about this festival. It's the first of its kind in the Northeast, as was mentioned. It is featuring many green and green-based businesses in Rochester and the Western New York region. So it's good to come out and see what these businesses are doing in our local economy. There'll be a green auto show, 20 to 25 cars from different dealers and so forth, all in one spot, so you'll be able to see them all and compare them all in one spot. You won't be able to do that anywhere else. It'll be a combination festival and exhibit space, so there'll be a lot of great stuff. Wegmans Recycled Art Competition, or an extreme materials fashion show, wine garden, beer garden, music, food. There's a ton of programming, so come out and enjoy it. It's going to be a good weekend, and thank you very much.
Would Reverend James L. Cherry Sr. please come forward? Also President Adair and Legislator Willie Joe Lightfoot. Whereas the Anon Baptist Church was first organized in Rochester, New York as a mission in 1923, affiliating themselves with other Baptist churches and associations and local community groups, the church grew over the years, moving frequently to accommodate their swelling numbers. In August of 1971, the entire congregation marched to their current home at 175 Genesee Street in the city of Rochester. And whereas in May of 1981, Anon called on Reverend James Lee Cherry Sr. of Philadelphia to lead their church. On July 6, 1981, Reverend Cherry was ordained pastor of the Anon Baptist Church. Immediately, he began to instill in his congregation the importance of the church family concept and giving freely to God. Pastor Cherry ingrained himself within the community, concerning himself with the issues that his members and neighbors faced every day. And whereas under Pastor Cherry, the church has seen its congregation double in size and a multi-million-dollar expansion that created offices, a library, a computer room, and nearly 500 additional seats for church members. The church has created scholarship funds, ministries, education departments, youth clubs, scout troops, a quarterly newsletter, and a new website under Pastor Cherry's administration. In the community, he has become known for advocating for Rochester schools, pushing for more accountability in the police department, leading anti-violence movements, and urging African Americans to educate themselves about AIDS. And whereas Pastor Cherry's extensive education and degrees, his service on various committees, and his many awards and recognitions are far too numerous to list, it is safe to say that Pastor Cherry's work has touched hundreds of thousands of people in Monroe County in his 30 years of service. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Willie Joe Lightfoot, Legislator District 27, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, on this day, September 13th, 2011, do hereby honor Reverend James L. Cherry Sr. for his 30 years of service to Anon Baptist Church and the entire Rochester community. Congratulations.
You've invited me many times here to give the prayer. Trust me, that was much easier than to stand here tonight like this. Certainly to President Jeffrey R. Adair and County Exec Maggie Brooks, and certainly to Willie Lightfoot, who invited me here, and Calvin Lee, who is a member of our congregation, and to each of you who helped direct our county so well. Good evening. I don't think I deserve such an honor because as a minister and servant of the Lord, I'm only doing what I believe God wants me to do. This is my 50th year in ministry. We were blessed to serve 10 and a half years in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and 10 and a half years in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then the search committee came and asked us to come to Cold Rochester. But for the past 30 years has been the most rewarding in my ministry. So I want to thank you, President Adair, Mr. Lightfoot, Maggie Brooks, and each of you. There's so many people in our community that deserves to be honored, but I'm grateful and I'm humbled that you would serve us. The Enon Church truly is a community church. We put every organization in the city just about in our budget, and our congregation freely gives to help this community. I would ask that you would pray for us that we might do even greater things for God and then for the Enon Church and our community. Thank you so very much.
Would representatives from the Edgerton Community Center and Park please come forward? Also, President Adair and Legislator Cynthia Cayley. Hi. Whereas the Edgerton Community Center and Park has a very long and colorful history in the city of Rochester. The property was originally purchased by New York State in 1846 to create the Western House of Refuge, the first authorized state-supported institution for the confinement and reform of juvenile delinquents in the United States. For nearly 40 years, the facility served as little more than a hard labor prison for children. The state established many reforms, and the center focused on rehabilitation and education until it was abandoned in 1907. The city of Rochester, under the guidance of Mayor Hiram Edgerton, promptly bought the 40-acre site in 1908 and began preparations for a new park. And whereas in 1911, Exposition Park officially opened, hosting the Chamber of Commerce's Rochester Exposition event at an annual Mini World's Fair. It also was host to 4th of July celebrations, the circus, the New York State Fair, served as World War I training grounds, and Rochester's only official NFL team, the Rochester Jeffersons. In 1922, it was renamed Edgerton Park in honor of the former mayor, and in 1934, over 300,000 people attended Rochester's centennial celebration at the park. During World War II, the annual exposition took a hiatus but was never continued after the war ended. And whereas nearly all of the original buildings were demolished over the years, leaving the chapel building as the last remaining structure from the park's heyday, but the site has always been host to many community events. It was home to the Rochester Royals, who were the 1951 NBA national champions, and it hosted Glenn Miller and his orchestra for a special performance. Jefferson High School and a new community center were built on the site over the years. Today, the school, park and center are integral to the community as a learning center and athletic fields for students in the year-round recreation program. The Stardust Ballroom, the Model Railroad Room, and the Water Spray Park are just a few of the many current amenities that Edgerton Park supplies to a very grateful community. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Cynthia W. Cayley, Legislator District 28, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, on this day, September 13th, 2011, do hereby honor Edgerton Community Center and Park for 100 years of versatility and enjoyment for the Rochester community. Congratulations.
On behalf of the City of Rochester and our Commissioner, Luis Burgos, and our Assistant Commissioner, Anthony Jordan, and Assistant Director, Jim Farr, we thank you for recognizing us. I'm the current Director of Edgerton Park, and as things have been put together, we really, really appreciate this honor. I'd like to give John Pacone time to say a few words. He's been there many, many years and has a few words to say. Thank you.
I'm not that old, really. Thank you, first of all, Cindy Cayley, for putting this proclamation together, and all the county legislator and Maggie Brooks. It's a great honor. I am a bit of a history buff, so I'm sure a lot of people have heard me talk about Edgerton over the years, and it is a great honor to have it. It is a very rich, rich history, as you can see with that proclamation. It's been a valued resource for our youth in the community, and we hope that it continues to do so. So thank you very much.
There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We will now hold the public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Mrs. Rozzi?
Please use the center aisle when your name is called and be prepared to address the legislature. Each speaker will have 2 minutes, and we ask that you conclude when the timer sounds, and we thank you for your cooperation. Our first speaker will be Sister Grace Miller. Please come forward.
Like getting on a bicycle. Come on.
You're going to make me cry first. I'll cry first. And then, as someone said, a wonderful Republican said, let me come and greet you first before you yell at us. Well, the first thing I want to do is thank all of you who prayed for me for my recovery. It was a long 6 months, and what pulled me through were the prayers and the best wishes of all. And I got prayers from many of you and cards, and I got a card from Maggie Brooks, and she said to come back. The people need me, so I came back. So thank you all, and I know I'm standing here tonight because of all the prayers that I received. And now I'll start yelling. Actually, my cousin had a talk I had given here in 2004, and she's back there now. And many people said, Grace, you need to give that talk again. And it was one that I addressed to the Republicans, so hold fast, all right? And the reason why they asked me to speak again on this is because it still holds true today. Many points still hold true today. This country under Republican control and this county under Republican control are a scandal for all believers of truth, for all who believe in equality and justice for all. The budget cuts that cut domestic social programs that benefit the poor and freeze the poor in poverty are a scandal to the world. With your ambition for power, wealth, for status, prestige, for the highest places in society, you have created in America a county where the rich become richer and the poor become poorer. The gap between the rich and the poor is greater today than it's been in 50 years, the worst inequality among all Western nations. And many Republicans are the reason for it, and now with the Tea Party, because you lack the moral courage, the spiritual strength to stand up for what you know in your heart is right and just. Money, power, status, big egos have brought our county to a stranglehold and is suffocating it. Compassion for the poor is unknown, is a stranger. We have now a government for the few at the expense of the many. And all this because of a few slick people in power and in leadership positions. The Republican cry is reward the rich, punish the poor, wage not peace, but war. These are the principles on which you stand, principles that wipe out the forgotten, the poor, the suffering masses of humanity. It is truly a scandal. Many of you claim to be Christian, but Christianity has lost its voice, and as Bill Moyer says, Christians, the religious right, have hijacked Jesus. Jesus stood in Nazareth and proclaimed, "The Lord has anointed me to preach the good news to you." The very Jesus who told 5,000 hungry people that all of you will be fed, not just some of you. The very Jesus who offered kindness to the prostitute and hospitality to the outcast, who raised the status of women and treated even the cheating tax collector like a child of God, has been hijacked. This Jesus that many of you claim to worship has been hijacked by Christians and turned into a guardian of privilege instead of a champion of the dispossessed. Hijacked, Jesus was made over into a militarist, hedonist, lobbyist, and sent prowling the halls of Congress in Gucci's, seeking tax breaks and loopholes for the powerful, costly new weapon systems that don't work, and punitive public policies. Yes, power corrupts. And we all need to look deep into your hearts and souls to see if you have been corrupted by power, by your positions as legislators. And when we see the devastating budgets and treatment of the poor in Rochester, we see truly where power has corrupted many and your consciences have been dulled. Jeremiah in chapter 5 cries out, "Run to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem. Look and take note. Search your squares to see if you can find a man," and I'll keep man as it is written in Scripture, because most of you are men, "one man who does justice." I ask you, is this too great a task for you? I have copies here, and I'm asking that they be given to them, but I also I'm going to attach a Convert to Peace, which was in one of our magazines, The Sojourner. A conservative Republican member of Congress talks about his journey of repentance for supporting the U.S. wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. He voted the party line, but it bothered his conscience. And he says, "God was being challenged in my heart by my evil desire to get reelected." So he voted for the war, and it bothered his conscience, and next round he voted against the war because he couldn't live with himself. God wanted me, it was one of his friends.
Sister Grace.
I'm going to finish. His son was killed in the Afghanistan war, Iraq war, and he says, it was so hard for him to take it. He says, "God wanted me to take away from that funeral service the pain of a family that lost a loved one for going into a war that never had to have been fought. I realized my mistake and my weakness for not voting my conscience." I'll leave these with you.
Sure. Our next speaker, Mrs. Morales.
Thank you for the applause.
Everybody speak at one time. Hi. It's time to speak up and out about your handling and caring about the burying of the dead. It's a shame the grave sites you have chosen for the poor, the burial ground, the handling of their loved ones that are buried after they've departed. Well, if they can't bury them, stack them up and wherever and whoever until they have the money. It's the way you're looking at things. We're getting good at it. This is our way. This is our way. It is clear. Let me ask you, how sure are you about your futures going down? This time for death and people remains in hardship for the poor. A 12-year-old who had died in July 8th, body is not buried yet. There's hardship for folks. It's not the way it used to be, where you worked, you got paid, you could come together and share. The jobs are going down. People do not have what they once had. And as people who have been elected into office and who also have to go through the same thing, each of us here is going to have to bury somebody, and somebody going to have to bury y'all. So I'm saying that this is something that the churches need to speak on, and people need to speak on. People should have a right, since it's a land of liberty and justice for all, to have a right to be buried. And not things put on them, here's such and such money, get yourself cremated. You have choices for yourself. Some of us here are lucky to already have money put aside for our burial. But I would like for you to consider the poor who has also built this city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rita Lewis.
I just want to speak tonight regarding the real concern I have for the county's burial policy. Maggie Brooks changed this policy in 2006. Since then, the poor have struggled when their loved one dies, and they do not have the money needed to pay for a burial. Many are being cremated against the wishes of the family. Some have lingered in storage at the funeral homes as loved ones try desperately to acquire enough money for the gravesite. Even to the point of taking money away from the rent and risking eviction. The county's policy should be changed to simply pay for the poor person's burial, the coffin, the cemetery plot. It's time to put aside politics and do what is right for the people. I ask you to make the policy a just one that is fair and provides a decent and respectful burial for the poor of Monroe County. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chris Safuto.
Good evening, everybody. Great day, isn't it? And while I was getting ready to write my brief little speech this evening, I remembered it was primary day, and I need to go and vote. But these are one of those days that the elected officials, as yourselves, believe that the citizens of the community will get out and do the right thing and vote, which I, of course, hope they do. This made me realize that not much is different with the CSEA members in Monroe County. We too believe that the Monroe County management will do the right thing and negotiate a fair contract in good faith. Unfortunately, that has not happened lately. It is now 2011. We are still without a contract since the end of 2008, and it doesn't look like anything is going to change in the near future. CSEA decided to go to fact-finding in order to see if we could come to some meeting of the minds. However, Monroe County decided to file an improper practice suit against us, spend more taxpayers' dollars, and move the goalpost farther away from the goal to get a fair contract. So on this primary day, I hope that the citizens of this county don't move the goalpost further away on any of your colleagues as the administration has on us, because I can't say it enough times. Monroe County works because we do. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ed Ramsberger.
Evening.
Mr. President, Madam County Executive, wherever you are, members of the Legislature, and citizens of the community. I represent the retirees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, Monroe County Sheriff's Office Association of Retirees, and I just came here this evening to put the name out. You'll be hearing some more of us. And also I gave to the clerk this little card which will give you some information on our website. We are a little over 200 strong. There's a little less than 400 retirees. I'd welcome you to go to the website to learn more of our activities. I'd welcome you to put your email address on that website. We have over 400 people on our mailing list. And it again is just here to introduce SOAR, Sheriff's Office Association of Retirees, to each of you. And you'll be hearing a bit more of us in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is James Rampashad.
I speak about religion, and the word religion means is your heart. You know, when I speak about religion, only a man study religion and speak theology. Theology is a man's heart. You can read a person when they're lying and telling the truth. But I know I listened to the Reverend Cherry, and I understand what he was saying, but at the same time, he was committing perjury and obstruction of justice. I studied law, and I already went to the FBI and the judge and all that. And I did call the White House and speak to President Obama about, and I hang the phone up. I already know they contacted the South American government or British Guyana about me. So I would like to honor Lightfoot. I listen to Lightfoot. But we speak about, when I speak about religion, you know, only a man's heart can be just. You have to be born again. And on those tapes downtown is Reverend Douglas Smith. He committed perjury and obstruction of justice. And what I'm speaking about, he don't like me. He trying to honor me as a preacher. But my mother told me, Rita Ramfo, she told me he's not a good man. And God said, God the Father, God the dollar bill. I do know Dr. Walter Cooper since 1983, I know Walter Cooper. And I visit Walter Cooper at his house. And if you come to my house, his picture is sitting on the wall. Thank you.
Our last speaker is John Langdon.
I'm here tonight because of an article in the recent Democrat and Chronicle. The subject is a bridge proposal rejected. I'll read it briefly, bring everybody up to date in case you missed it. A bridge proposal to open the Irondequoit Bay Bridge outlet 1 month earlier has been submitted to the Monroe County Legislature and rejected by Legislature President. Legislators Ted O'Brien and Vincent Esposito, who represent Irondequoit, proposed that the bridge open to traffic October 1st. But they are disagreeing that the matter was urgent and required immediate action, as O'Brien and Esposito suggested. The Democrats will submit another referral in the traditional way. It goes on, it would be open 6 months to voting and 6 months to vehicle traffic. When the communication discussion door is slammed shut, there are big problems in government. This has happened with the Irondequoit Bay Bridge on Lake Road, the last county legislature meeting. President Obama said in his recent speech that the political circus must stop. Well, the political circus needs to stop here in Monroe County, too. No wonder Monroe County is the highest tax county in the nation. I've never met Mr. O'Brien or Mr. Esposito, but I'm a senior and I read the paper, and I want to thank them for trying to open the Bay Bridge on Lake Road. Both represent Irondequoit. I live in Webster and must cross the 104 bridge every day. Where are my Webster legislature representatives and their support? Silent. Dead silent. This is sad. In fact, I want to take it one more step. It's tragic. I want to say it again. It's tragic. Many Webster residents cross the 104 bridge daily. The alternate Lake Road route would reduce traffic congestion, provide direct, safer, and shorter access between Webster, Irondequoit, and Rochester. I'm here tonight because, reading the Democrat 25th article, I called the Republican county legislature and asked for Mr. Quattro, Mr. Gamina, and Mr. Dare to call me about the possible early opening. No one called me. I call this taxation without representation of my Webster residents. Another tragedy. There is currently New York State work being done on the 104 bridge and drainage modifications to 104 leading to the bridge. On August 26th, the 3-lane 104 traffic was reduced to 1 lane. The traffic jam resulted and caused a 20-minute delay to travel from Culver Road to Bay Road. There is urgency to open the Lake Road Irondequoit outlet bridge earlier for all motorists to benefit. Yes, this benefits everyone. Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, independents, and all of your other constituents. Let's all of us work together for a safer transportation and stop the circus. Thank you for hopefully listening. I got extra articles if anybody wants one. I hand it in for all your legislature. I hope you read this and think about it. Thank you.
This concludes the public forum.
At this time, we'll recess the September 13th, 2011 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature for the purpose of convening the Pure Waters Administration Board for the Rochester Pure Waters District. The clerk will please note the attendance and read the item on the agenda.
PWAB 1, referral 11-0210.
Moved by Legislator Cassetti, second by Legislator Daniele. All in favor? Any opposed? Item carries. We will now recess the Rochester Pure Waters District and adjourn the Pure Water Administration Board. The September 13th, 2011 meeting of the legislature is now reconvened. We will now continue with the considerations of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk please read the next item on the agenda?
Item number 1, referral 11-198, authorizing contract.
Moved by Legislator Hanna, second by Legislator Daniele. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing there's no discussion, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 2, referral 11-0199, accepting grant.
Moved by Legislator Hanna, second by Legislator Daniele. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing there's none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 3, referral 11-0200, accepting aid to localities.
Moved by legislator Hannah, second by legislator Daniele. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 4, referral 11-0201, accepting.
Moved by legislator Hannah, second by legislator Daniele. Is there any question at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 5, referral 11-0202.
Moved by legislators Antelli, second by legislators Hannah and Daniele. Are there any questions at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. All those opposed? The item carries.
Item number 6, referral 11-
Moved by legislator Draw, second by legislator Daniele. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 7, referral 11-204.
Moved by legislator Draw, second by legislator Daniele. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 8, referral 11-205.
Moved by legislator Cassetti, second by legislator Daniele. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing there's none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 9, referral 11-206, authorizing.
Moved by legislator Robert J. Colby, second by legislator Daniele. Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 10, referral 11-207.
Moved by legislator Antelli, second by legislators Colby and Daniele. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 11, referral 11-208, authorizing.
Moved by legislator Antelli, second by legislator Valerio. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 12, referral 11-209, authorizing exchange.
Moved by legislator Cassetti, second by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing there's none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Is there any unfinished business to come before this body tonight? Legislator Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask about a matter of urgency that's before us tonight. As you're aware, I introduced to you or submitted to you last week a matter of urgency on the Rondequoit Bay Outlet Bridge. Says there is.
There's no, so the discussion's out of order.
I'd like to ask a question, Mr. President, if it's not too much trouble.
I'd like to know what you're looking to do.
I'd like to just understand what the decision was that you made to introduce this memorializing referral, number 110211, as a memorializing referral, and what a matter of urgency memorializing referral means.
I really need to know what you want to do before we ask questions. So what is it you'd like to do?
I'd just like to
point?
understand your decision to introduce it this way.
As I said before, I want to know what we're doing on the floor first before we do this. So tell me exactly what you want to do. Is there some sort of ruling you want to do here? What do you want to do? What's the first thing you want to do? Because this is not on as unfinished business. So go ahead.
This is a timely issue that I've introduced and sent a letter to my.
Motion on the floor, so any discussion's out of order unless it's a motion to suspend.
Through you,
the rules,
Mr. President, there is unfinished business on this matter. I'd like to ask the administration when I'll be receiving a response on the study conducted on the swing bridge.
Mr. President,
in the past
point of
year,
order.
which I have submitted multiple
Is there any
and is
motion on the floor,
unfinished.
Mr. President? If not, then any discussion's out of order. Thank you.
Legislator Esposito was just asked a question about a study that was supposed to be being conducted by the county administration. That study's not concluded. He's asking for information about it. Now, I think that's entirely appropriate under unfinished business.
I'll allow the question.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, could the legislator repeat the question, please?
Thank you. Through the President, I'd just like to know if and when I'll be receiving, or this body will be receiving, the results of a study conducted by the administration on traffic in the Irondequoit Bay Outlet Channel during the month of October 2011 and October 2010 and April 2011.
Mr. President, I personally delivered that response to your staff yesterday.
Thank you very much. I guess that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, on this memorializing referral, is there a due date as to when this needs to be signed by?
I believe that we said we were going to have this out by this Friday.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. I'd encourage all my colleagues to sign it by this Friday. Thank you very much.
Is there any other unfinished business at this time? Legislator Echo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope this is seen as unfinished business as it pertains to something that I've asked about since April, and you actually presented it to us. This, of course, is the annual work program for the Monroe County Legislature, which is supposed to be presented to us by April. It was given to us, and in the May meeting, it was tabled. Now, it's been 4 months since then. We're now 9 months into the year 2011, so I'm making a motion to lift from the table intro number 191, the annual work program for the Monroe County Legislature that was tabled by legislators Quattro, seconded by Draw, on May 10th, 2011.
Who was the second on that? Legislator O'Brien.
Roll call vote, Mr. President.
I will move to a roll call vote.
Dr. Quattro.
No.
Mr. O'Brien. Ms. Andrews. Mr. Antelli. Mr. Barker. Mr. Baroth. Mr. Beebe. Mr. Cassetti. Mr. Colby. Mr. Daniele. Mrs. Draw. Mr. Eckel. Mr. Esposito. Mr. Gamble. Mr. Gamina. Mr. Haney. Mr. Hanna. Mr. Hyder. Mr. Howland. Ms. Kaylee. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lightfoot. Mr. Monero is excused. Mr. McCann. Mr. Rocco. Mr. Tucciarello. Mrs. Valerio. Mr. Yolovich. President Adair.
No.
11-16, motion fails.
Is there any other discussion to go before this body tonight? I believe Legislator Echo, your hand went up first.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one question, information. According to Robert's rules, anything that is tabled must have a pressing reason to be tabled. And in May, the same referral that I'm asking about was tabled. I would like to know, since it was tabled and it's now remaining on the table, what is the pressing reason we are not looking at our work plan 9 months after it should have been enacted, according to our charter?
Legislator Echo, I will answer that with that it has been tabled and there will be no discussion at this time on it.
I'm asking what was the pressing reason for it to be tabled? It's a point of information, sir.
It's my point of information then.
So there's no reason that you're going to
table by, it's been tabled by the majority, they've tabled it.
including yourself.
Correct.
So you're giving me no reason. Just for the record, there's absolutely no reason why this is being tabled. Is that
Any
true?
other questions? Is there any other questions at this time? I've
Is
answered
there,
the question.
sir, Mr. President, is
I've
there a
answered the
reason
question.
this was tabled? That's a question.
Yes, it was tabled because the majority of the legislators in this body have tabled it. That's the
That
reason
is
why.
not a reason, that's
is.
what happened.
Okay.
Sir, I'm asking, is there a reason that it was
That's the
tabled?
reason. That's the reason.
Thanks for your very helpful
You're welcome.
information.
Thank you. Legislator Haney, you had your hand up. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of brief questions for our finance director. A week or so ago, we received the second quarter key indicator report indicating how we're doing on our 2011 budget. And just what I think is a simple procedural question. When we say in that report that we're projecting that we're going to be someplace between -4 million and +1 million, are we looking only at the expenditure side of the budget, or does that also include the revenue side of the budget?
Through the President, in an effort to be transparent with the county's financial information, that is a revenue and expenditure report.
So that includes, for example, the anticipated variance in the sales tax revenue for the year?
Through the President, that would include the variance in the sales tax and the appropriation provided to the sharing partners for the distribution of that sales tax.
How about the, through you, Mr. President, how about the variance in the net sales tax revenue that the county will derive?
Through the President, that would be in there.
That's in, okay. Am I reasonably correct based on the numbers that I've seen that the county's share of the sales tax is going to run something like $3 million above budget? Is that in the rough ballpark?
Through the President, I think it's slightly less than that, but it's in the rough ballpark for these purposes.
Thank you very much. And a second subject, which I'm sure is of great interest to all of us here, the way the tax cap is going to apply. I'm wondering, Mr. Adair, has the state yet given the county our growth factor for the year? I think you know what I mean, the multiplier that we're allowed to use. Yeah.
And through the President, yes, as of, I believe it was last Friday, the Department of Taxation and Finance did distribute the growth factor.
Through you, Mr. President, do you know off the top of your head what the growth factor is?
Through the President, because the tax cap has become very near and dear to my heart.
I'm sure it has.
I am very aware of that number. It is 0.68%. So slightly less than 1% is the growth factor. And that's published information on the Department of Taxation and Finance's website as well as the State Controller's website if you need further information on it.
Since that's less than 1, does that mean that the growth factor for us is going to have a negative impact?
Through the President, I apologize if I wasn't very clear with that. That would be 1.0068 would be the growth factor, so it's slightly above 1. There will never be, the CPI will be the cap as far as, or the floor as far as what the tax cap can go up by. So if your number decreases, it effectively will not go lower than whatever the CPI rate is.
So the growth factor we've been given is 1.0068?
Through the President, that's correct.
Which will have almost no beneficial impact for us, is that?
Legislator Haney, we're missing one thing in our protocol tonight.
I'm sorry?
We're missing one thing in our protocol tonight.
Oh, through you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
To the esteemed finance director. So do I understand the way it's working that that'll have virtually a nominal beneficial impact for us?
Through the President, it will have an impact, and to your point, it will be nominal in the 2012 budget.
Through you, Mr. President, the other factor that will be significant is the amount of the increased pension costs that we'll be able to add on to the 2% because they exceed that benchmark that's in the law. Do you happen to know what that add-on will be in our tax cap calculation?
Through the President, there seems to be some clarification that we're waiting from the State Controller's Office for on that, but we anticipate it to be 0.6% at this point in time.
So our tax cap, in effect, is 2.6%, is that?
Through the President, that's where it gets kind of complicated because it's not exactly, because of the way the formula works, and that is what I'll call well below the third set of fractions that we're using here. It's not effectively adjusted by 2.6% plus the growth factor. There's some other, as you're probably well aware of, there are some other items that go into the calculation.
Yeah.
But the pension cost, the exclusion of the cap for this county at this particular time is anticipated to be approximately 0.6%.
Okay, thank you. And a final question. At the Ways and Means Committee, when we were talking to the auditors, I asked for the actual amount of the stimulus, federal stimulus that we received in 2009, 10, and this year, 2011, which you were going to forward to me. May I expect that in a day or so?
Through the chair, through the President, yes, you can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion tonight? Being none, Dr. Quattro.
This honorable body stand adjourned until Tuesday, October 11th, 2011 at 6 p.m.